All right, so this is going to be our review for our Unit 3 study guide. As a reminder, the point of this video is to either have this up and make sure that you are watching it while working along with me in the study guide to better understand the problems as we go, or to skip around in the video and go specifically to the problems that you missed in the study guide your first time around. Either way works, it all just kind of depends on you, and I would have told you this in class. So we're just going to go through and start number one and make our way through number 20. So number one, it says Enrique is making cakes. Okay, so it says 2 cakes, 8 eggs, 4 cakes, 16 eggs, 6 cakes, 24 eggs, 7 cakes, question mark eggs. Doesn't tell us. It says based on this table, how many eggs will Enrique need to make 7 cakes? Now the answer to this one, if you did it already, would not have been 32. If you were trying to follow a pattern and thought these were counting by eights, that's only because they were multiplying this top number by 4. 2 times 4 would give me 8 eggs. 4 times 4 gives me 16 eggs. And 6 times 4 gives me 24 eggs. And then here you notice they stopped counting by twos. They suddenly jumped to 7. So what you were supposed to do was take this top number, the number of cakes, and multiply that times 4. And 7 times 4 is not 32. It would have given us 28. For number 2, it says Dominic rides his bike at a rate of 4 minutes per mile. How many miles or how many minutes will it take for him to ride 12 miles? So they told us 4 minutes per mile. So we can write that as 4 minutes for every 1 mile, and we can put that into a proportion. And we know that we want to find out how many minutes it would take for him to go 12 miles. Once we're here, you can solve this a couple of ways. Option number one is just seeing we multiply 1 mile times 12 to get 12 miles. Therefore, we must multiply the top part of the proportion too. 4 times 12 would give me 48. Another way you could do this, some of you may have picked up on this from the hints in class, but you could have used the same method that we use for percents. Cross multiply 4 times 12 and then divide by 1 mile. That also would have given you 48 minutes. So either way you wanted to do number 2 would work. For number 3, similar to number 1, it shows us a table comparing the proportion of pizzas to guests. It says 2 pizzas, 6 guests, 4 pizzas, 12 guests, 8 pizzas, 24 guests, question mark pizzas for 60 guests. And it even breaks it down for us down here that they use 2 pizzas to serve 6 people. So we could take a look at this proportion and say, all right, for 6 guests to 60 guests, they would have had to multiply that by 10. Therefore, we would also multiply the number of pizzas by 10. That's one way you could have done this problem. You could have done 2 times 10. That would have given you 20, which would work. Another way you could have done it is again set up an equivalent proportion. We have 2 pizzas for every 6 people, and we could set that equal to 60 people and solve it just like the problem before. Cross multiply 2 times 60 to get 120. 120 divided by 6, that would also give me 20. So again, another problem that could be solved 2 ways. For number 4, this one is a little different. Instead, it gives us a situation and asks us to pick a table that represents it. It says Kendra buys 3 bracelets for $48. Which table shows the correct amounts that she would need to pay in order to buy 9 and 13 bracelets? All right, so first of all, it would help if we knew how much one bracelet was. So if she's buying 48 bracelets or $48 for 3 bracelets, we could divide that and say that Kendra is going to be earning 16 bracelets, or $16 for every bracelet. So we'll go ahead and write that down so we don't forget. It is $16 per bracelet. Misspelled bracelet. So $16 per bracelet. We need to know that. And if we know that it is $16 per bracelet, all we have to do is multiply $16 times 9 and $16 times 13. And the answer should be one of these sets of bottom numbers. So let's go ahead and pull up the calculator and see which one of these is actually going to work. Starting with 9. So 9 bracelets at $16 a bracelet should have equaled $144. And option B is the only one that matches up to $144. For number 5, kind of similar to the last one, it says a restaurant needs 2 servers for every 12 guests for a big event. Which table shows the correct number of servers needed for different numbers of guests? So, if it's 2 servers for every 12 guests, we can use that and figure out how many servers do they need for uh, any number of guests. So we'll take 12 guests and we will divide that by 2 servers. And that means that for every 6 guests, they only need 1 server. So what I am doing is I am multiplying my number of servers times 6, and that should give me the number of guests. So 1 server for 6 guests, 2 servers for 12 guests, and we would keep multiplying from there. So let's check our answer choices. This first one says 4 servers for 16 guests. Well, does that check out? Is 4 times 6 16? The answer is no, it is not. So this one is wrong. Option B, 4 servers for 24 guests. 4 times 6 is 24, so that works. 6 times 6 is 36, that works. 10 times 6 is 60, and I think you can figure that out. This is the one that is going to be our answer. And just double check for C, it says for 8 servers there's 20 guests. No, 8 times 6 is not 20. And for this bottom one, it says for 6 servers there are 18 guests. Again, no. 6 times 6 is not 18. Moving on to number 6. Grapes are on sale for $1.60 per pound. If Rosie paid $1.92 for her grapes, how many pounds of grapes did she buy? So we know it's $1.60 per pound. So $1.60, and that is for 1 pound. So 1 pound, $1.60, and it's asking us if she paid $1.92, then how many pounds of grapes would she have had to buy? One way you could solve this is the same way we solve our percent problems. You set up an equal proportion. We don't know how many pounds that she would need. What we do know is if we set it up like this, we could cross multiply $1.92 times 1 pound, then divide that by $1.60. And that would give me an answer. So let's go ahead and pull this up and check. $1.92 divided by $1.60 gives me 1.2 pounds. The other way you could have solved this problem is just by skipping the proportion and dividing. We know her total, which is $1.92. If we divide that by the unit rate, which is $1.60 per pound, this would have given me the same answer of 1.2. Both of those methods of solving number 6 do work. For number 7, it says Miguel has 2 different cylindrical containers. The capacities of the 2 containers are shown below. Container X holds 4 gallons, and container Y is 30 pints. And it asks us to compare which container holds more and by how much. So we first need to understand how many quarts each of these containers really is, because that is the measurement we are asking for. So let's go ahead and draw that big G that we've done so often in our warm-ups. We'll draw our quarts. There were 4 quarts in 1 gallon. and inside each quart are 2 pints. We don't need to worry about the cups so much in this problem, so I'm drawing the pints rather small. So let's go ahead and compare now. 4 gallons would be equal to how many quarts? Well, 1 gallon has 4 quarts, which means 2 gallons will have 8 quarts, 3 gallons will have 12 quarts, and 4 gallons would be equal to 16 quarts. Now for the 30 pints, let's see how many pints there are in a single gallon. Or how many pints there are in a quart. I suppose we don't need the gallon. There are 2 pints for every quart. So I could simply take the 30 pints here and divide them by 2, and that would give me how many quarts? So 30 divided by 2 would give me 15 quarts. So now the question is, which of these two containers is greater and by how much? Well, container X is 16 quarts and container Y is only 15 quarts. So that means container X is 1 quart greater than container Y. And that's going to be our answer for this one. For number 8, another converting measurements problem. This one asks what would be the closest number of yards in 85 meters? And it gives us this proportion. 1 yard is equal to 0.914 meters. So we are going to have to round because it does ask closest number. So we can assume we're not going to get a whole number, and that's okay. But we're going to set up a proportion here. We know 1 yard is going to be equal to 0.914 meters. And we're going to try to figure out how many yards are going to be in 85 meters. Does this setup look familiar? Because it should. This is just our equal proportions setup again. We could solve this one of 2 ways. We could either cross multiply and then divide, or you could have also simply done 85 meters divided by that many meters per yard. Both ways would work. They're going to functionally come out to be the same thing. At the end of the day, we will do 85 divided by 0.914. So let's go ahead and pull up our calculator and see how that works. We have 85 divided by 0.914. And that gives us, it came out to 92.99 and a whole bunch of other numbers. Bottom line, 92.99 is really, really, really close to rounding up to the next number, which is 93. And 93 is an answer choice, so that's what we're going to go with. For number 9, it says Thomas needs to buy a bag of rice from the grocery store. And it asks which bag of rice has the smallest unit price. We remember unit price. This is where you do the amount of money divided by the amount of product, and that number is going to be your unit price. And this one wants to know which one is the least. So the first option is a 100-ounce bag that is $3. So we start off with $3 divided by 100 ounces. That gives us about 3 cents, 0.03. Pretty low. The next one is $2.50 divided by 80 ounces. And that gives us a little bit more, so 0.03. But this one has some more stuff that comes after it. So this one is higher. This one's not the answer. The next one after that is going to be $2.40 divided by 75 ounces. That gives us, again, it's a little bit more, so 0.032. Again, a little bit more, so that one is out. And our last option, $2.25 divided by 70 ounces. And that, once again, 0.032. Whatever it is going to be more than 0.03. Because you have to figure the next number that would have come next would have been zeros. And those zeros make it less than all of these options below. So, number 9, my answer should have been the 100-ounce bag. For number 10, it asks which list of lengths is in order from greatest to least. So for this one, you have to consider the size of each thing. So this one says 20 centimeters comes first. Kind of doubtful. Centimeters are pretty small, only about as wide as your pinky thumbnail. So even if I stacked 20 of these up together, still probably not going to be that much. 16 inches, that is more than a foot. So if you took a look at the ground in the classroom, those tiles on the ground are 1 foot long. So 1.5 of those tiles is about 16 inches, which is definitely more than 20 centimeters. So it's not A. For B, this one starts with 1.5 feet. That is 1.5 feet. That is exactly 1.5 of those tiles that are on the ground. So, okay, we'll start there. From there, we have 1 meter. 1 meter is a little bit shorter than the fishing rod at the front of the classroom. So, yeah, 1 meter, that is maybe about as long as 3 of those tiles on the ground. So that is, again, longer than 1.5 feet. But then it goes to 16 inches again. 16 inches is definitely less than a meter. A meter is about, it's long. It's about that long, or longer than that. But 16 inches, maybe like this big. So no, it's not going to be B. Uh, C has the same problem again. It starts with inches and then goes to centimeters. So no, that's probably not going to be right either. This last one starts off with a meter first. Well, yeah, we already established a meter is pretty large. Then it goes 1.5 feet. Well, yeah, 1.5 feet, 1.5 feet. So that checks out. 16 inches, so that's a little less than a foot and a half. That again checks out. That works. And then 20 centimeters, we can assume centimeters are so small, those are going to be the smallest unit. So for number 10, our answer was going to be D, the final answer. Moving on to this next problem, number 11, into the percent section. Mick bought a set of compact discs, an ancient relic of my time growing up. If sales tax were 6% and the tax of his purchase was $1.68, then what is the cost of the compact discs before tax? So we'll go ahead and set up our proportion. We want a part out of a total will equal a percent out of 100. They told us 6% out of 100. They did not give us the total. That is what they want to know. They want to know the total cost. But they did tell us $1.68 was going to be the tax. So what we do is cross multiply $1.68 times 100, and then we will divide that by 6. And that gives me an answer of 28 even. So the cost of those compact discs, $28 before tax. Moving on to number 12. An oil company drilled several wells. 50 wells, or 25% of the produced well of them, produced oil. What was the total number of wells that were drilled? So again, they gave us a percent, 25%. They gave us, we already know it's out of 100. And they told us that 50 wells, or 25%, produced oil, and they're asking what the total was. So we don't have the total, but we do know that there were 50 wells, which makes up 25%. So again, we just follow the same formula, cross multiply, and then divide. So 50 times 100 divided by 25 would give me 200 wells as the total number of wells that were drilled. For number 13, it says Amber works at a store and gets an employee discount. A skirt costs $50 and she pays $40 with her discount. With that information, how much is Amber's employee discount? So we'll set up our proportion. This time they did not give us a percent. So this time this section will remain empty. And they gave us a part, the amount she paid with her discount, and the total, the original cost. So it is going to be our part out of total, 40 out of 50, and we will convert that to a percent. So 40 times 100, because we cross multiply, divided by 50 would give me 80%. So that is the percent of her actual, of that is the percent that she paid. Now the question was, what is the discount? You'll notice 80 is not an answer choice. When a question is asking you for a discount, what they want you to do is find the difference. So yes, 80% is the amount she paid. So how much did she not pay? What is 180 taken away from the total 100%? The answer is 20. We had to take away that 80% to give us a remaining 20%. That little 20% is the amount that her discount is worth. So that's going to be number 13. There is another way some of you may have tried to do this. The other way you could have done this was, since this was asking for her discount, you could have done 50 minus 40 and found out that it was $10 out of $50 that was taken away. And this would have given you exactly 20 the first time around. For number 14, this problem says Diane makes fruit punch with 3 cups of cranberry juice, 2 cups of mandarin orange juice, and 3 cups of watermelon juice. Approximately what percentage of the punch is cranberry juice? So they didn't outright give us a total. What we have to do here is a little tricky. They want us to find a percent out of 100. Fair enough. And they told us there are 3 cups of cranberry juice. And they didn't outright tell us a total. That is because we have to find the total by adding all 3 of those amounts together. So 3 cups of cranberry juice plus 2 cups of mandarin juice plus 3 cups of watermelon juice. That is 3 plus 2 plus 3 more. That gives us a total of 8 cups that were used to make this punch. So here's our proportion. All we do now is cross multiply 3 times 100. So 3 times 100, and then divide by this 8. That's going to give me 37.5, which is not an answer choice. Hence, this problem says approximately. We have to decide, do we round this up to 38 or down to 37? Well, seeing that 38 is an answer choice and 37 is not, pretty safe to say we round up. For number 15, in a basketball game, Tamara makes 16 out of 20 shots from the free throw line. What percentage of her shots did she make? So they gave us a part and a total. Pretty straightforward. 16 out of 20, part to total, equals an unknown percent out of 100. We're simply going to follow the same recipe as before. Cross multiply, and then divide by the number which was not used in the multiplication. 80. That's it. That's it for number 15. Not a whole lot going on with that one. For number 16, it looks more complicated than it really is because it includes a pie chart. But a lot of this information, as you'll find out, wasn't necessary for the problem. It says 200 middle school students were asked what type of music they liked most. The results are shown in the circle graph below. It says rap 50%, alternative 25%, rock 10%, and country 15%. How many students enjoy rap music the most? So we needed the total, which it told us up here, 200, and we needed either a part or we needed a percent. And they told us a percent right here. This information we didn't even need in the first place. All we needed was the total and this percent. So the total is 200, 200 students. The percent is 50%, and it's out of 100. We cross multiply 200 times 50 and divide by 100. So that gives us 100. 100 students prefer rap the most. Let's go ahead and do number 17, another picture graph. This time, It was simply asking what percentage of this circle is shaded. So what we need is a total to work with, and we need a part to work with. That's right, even if it's a picture, it doesn't change the way we solve this problem. The part, meaning the circle part that is shaded, includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 parts of this are shaded, and that's out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 parts are their total, and 6 of them are shaded. So we just throw this into our proportion. 6 out of 8 equals a percent out of 100. We do 6 times 100 and then divide by 8 to give us my answer, 75%. For number 18, it says a ferry has 82 cars on board, and this is about 64% of all the vehicles on board. Approximately how many vehicles are on board the ferry? So for this problem, they kind of buried some of the information. They told us 64% is part of our proportion, and they told us a ferry has 82 cars on board. You had to decide if that was the part or if that was the total. Looking at the second sentence, it tells us this is 64% of all the vehicles. So that 82 is equal to the 64%, meaning it should be on the top part of this proportion. 82 was not the total. So for this problem, we cross multiply 82 times 100 and then divide that by 64, which gives me that there were approximately 128 total cars on this ferry. Moving on to number 19, a town held a vote for whether to build a new library. Of the 500 people who voted, 300 people voted to build the new library. What percent of the people voted to build a library? Easy enough. It gave us a part, 300 people voted to build it, and a total. There were 500 people who voted. And they didn't even mix up the question down here. What percent voted to build the library? There is a chance this problem could have asked what percent of people voted not to build the library, which would have been 200 people. But this problem didn't do that. It just told us 300 out of 500. What percent would that equal out of 100? Easy enough. Cross multiply 300 times 100 and divided by 500. That gives me 60%. That's all there was to number 19. And the final problem, number 20. At a basketball game, 30% of the 600 spectators were students. How many students were at the basketball game? Okay, so again, they gave us a percent, 30%. It gave us a total, and it gave us uh, a part right here. Total, I meant to say 100. We all know it's out of 100%, and it says out of the 600 spectators were students. So that clues us in that the total was 600. We're just going to cross multiply 600 times 30 and divide by 100. So 600 divided by or times 30 and divide by 100 gives me that there were 180 students at the basketball game. And that's going to do it for the review of our study guide. Uh, so that's kind of it. Just as a reminder, if you were working along with this and you did not do very well your first time around, that is okay. You are welcome to try the study guide more times. Also, as a reminder, Friday morning is tutorial and study hall. That makes an excellent time to run through this video, run through the study guide one more time, and make sure that the way to solve all these problems is fresh in your mind for our test. And all that's left to say is good luck.